You'll be our last guest for a little bit.
I'm live now.
Yes, we are live now. All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to this week's episode of Kiara Sessions. My name is Kendo Ruth Anoshiga, and we have Celestine. If I pronounce your surname wrong, correct me. I know you will anyway. Omini.
No, it's Omen. No, not Omini. It's Omen. There's no I at the end, by the way.
Omen.
Correct.
Sounds French. It sounds French. Very, very elegant. Okay. All right. So we have Celestine here, and Celestine is the CEO and founder of Alt Labs. And I'm going to have, in fact, I have a lot of brand related questions in line with the name of your company, which I know you feed me on. Celestine is someone I've known for a lot of years because we worked together at Conga.com. And from there, he moved to, I think, Paystack or Andela and so on. And so anyway, he's here to share his journey with us and tell us how he got started in the world of technology, software engineering, as they call it these days, and how he has been able to build his business and how he has been able to leverage his network and to grow his business at Alt Labs. All right, Celestine, without further ado, please take it away. Tell us about yourself and what you do.
Hi, thanks, Candy, for having me. Morning, everyone. So my name is Celestine. I am the CTO of Alt Labs. I don't really like the title CEO. It feels like so much pressure. So I just call myself the CTO of Alt Labs. We are a software engineering and technology consulting company. Not based in Lagos, but we're a 100% remote company. Career-wise, like Kaini mentioned, started working together at Conga. After Conga, I went to Andela, and after Andela, I went to Paystack. I left Paystack, took a break from work, then started to learn Alt Labs, and we've been doing this for a while now.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. So, first of all, Celestine, how did you even get started in the world of technology? How did that come about? Was it something that you've always wanted to do, or something that you just stumbled upon? Like a lot of careers in Nigeria happen to be.
I think I stumbled upon it somehow. First time I ever saw a computer was in 1997. I was 9 and became love at first sight. My parents, we didn't have one at home, but my sister worked at a place that had computers. Because of that, I followed her to work, I think for like a month, just to sit beside her and watch her touch this magical thing that when you touch a key on the keyboard and something like this, it was magical to me. I would sit there for hours, endless time just watching her. Then I think back in 2003, that was the next time I had access to a computer. And the idea of just being able to touch something on the computer and make it do something at your own will, it felt like superpowers to me. So it became like an obsession. Then when it was now time to go to university, I decided to go study computer science. And it became a career. Funny thing, at the time when I started doing this thing, tech and startups was a big thing. It wasn't sexy the way it looks like today, but thankfully my career. So we like that sense.
Fantastic. So tell me, what has been one of the most amazing early projects you've ever worked on? Amazing in the sense that what changed its trajectory for you, that this is what I'm going to build my career on, when you first started?
So I think the very first thing that, when I first started, the first thing that made a lot of sense to me was back in 2010, I used to work for a law firm. For those people who know how lawyers work, they have this thing called a case diary. It's a physical diary where lawyers go around writing stuff. And I think that was the year when the iPad was released. So a company, a law firm back, hired us, myself and 2 other friends, to come build an electronic case management system for them. So the idea was lawyers wouldn't have to go to court with physical diaries again, and they had to go to court with an iPad. So we did that and digitized all the cases for the law firm. I think like 10 years thereabout. And the beautiful thing about it was that lawyers could go to court with that, case, electronic case diary. You can assign court, you can see proceedings, defendants, and all of every single thing that made up a case. And so that way, going through a case history wasn't much of a problem now. It was just essential, and it made lawyers 10 times more effective. And also there was a sexy appeal of some sort because it was an iPad. I was new, and every other lawyer was, wow, when they saw them. So
What's this
for
new
me,
thing?
oh yeah, I mean, so for me, that was the first time I saw how this thing can lead to efficiency, and most importantly, just make people feel good about themselves. So okay, fine. I mean, there's something here, so I probably would have to chase this for the rest of my life. So I'm still here,
Yeah.
12, 13 years later.
Yeah. So concerning, I'm going to take you back a bit with regards to the project you worked on for the law firm. So when you
Mhm.
worked on that project, first of all, what changes happened within the organization that they pretty much said, wow, like technology and law or the legal field have to, I don't know, there's a way they have to come together, because even till now, I know our public sector, they even still find it hard to make things, easily accessible through technology. So
Mhm.
how exactly did they feel at that law firm? How was the reaction to that?
No, I mean, it brought a ton of efficiency to the lawyers because then they didn't spend a lot of time in a company law library as they would typically do. So everybody just sat on their desk, go on the internet, search for something. So you can search X versus X, put the case number, and you see every single thing about the case. As opposed to going to the library, going through tons of, books, flipping through, trying to know who did what, who didn't do what. And in most cases, if you had other stuff that were like entered into evidence, I mean, you couldn't. So you could have scans attached to a case. You could have digital media, video, audio, text, everything attached. So efficiency, went up a whole lot. So for the associates, they really liked it because it meant even at home, as long as they have access to the internet, they could still do their work, as opposed to coming in on a Saturday into the office
Right.
to prepare for something. So that was really helpful to them. So much to the point that by the time I left, the firm had transitioned 100% from a physical case diary, to every single person using that.
Wow. But that must have taken a lot of work. What, were you the only person that actually did that there at the law firm, or you had to subcontract some?
No, so it was about four of us, so myself and two other friends. Then the firm also had one other person, to come join us. So
Okay.
it was a lot of work.
Okay. 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 Cool. So Conga, let's talk about Conga.com and the key roles you actually played in the company at the early stage of what is now known as, I think it's still retained is its name after it was bought out, but yeah, the Conga that we know right now. So
Mhm.
what were those things that you did at the company, and what actually moved you to, okay, so there's an e-commerce thing? Because e-commerce was not, it was relatively new in Nigeria, even African
Mhm.
continent, honestly, it was very new. So how did you say, okay, so I'm going to try my hands? I think you're a bit of an inquisitive person, like very inquisitive, like, okay, let me try something new, but I am not sure. So I would like you to speak on that, because honestly, that was a huge leap. So how exactly did that come about?
Huh. So Conga was an interesting accident, I would say, for me. Um, the reason that sort of made me take the leap was because the person I was dating at the time was quite obsessed about beauty. So prior to Conga, the founder of Conga had beauty. And almost on a daily basis, she would send me links to deals and say, oh, look at this thing, look at that thing. So I took a liking to the company beauty and tried to read about all of the things that the founder had done, with school and
Right,
other companies and other technology efforts. And
right.
one beautiful Friday afternoon, I still remember what I was doing. I was trying to boil rice for lunch. And my phone rang and I saw this phone number and I spoke and he said, oh, by the way, this is the message. I think for like 5 seconds, I was starstruck and I froze. This is somebody I had, somehow really like and admire from afar, speaking to me. And I need to say, hey, come, I'm doing this thing called Conga. Maybe do you want me to come see you or would you like to come see me? I said, sure, I would like to come see you. So I came into Lagos. I never lived in Lagos at the time. I lived in the city called Rio. So I came into Lagos and I saw him. And anybody who has ever met him know how charismatic and charming he is. I mean,
Yeah.
Sim is the one person that I would say will sell ice to the Eskimos. He sold me on the vision, on the things he wanted to do. They were quite lofty. And I said to myself, like, this was going to be once in a lifetime opportunity. I have no entire context of what this was going to look I lose nothing, coming with him on this journey, and that was about it. So I joined the company as maybe the first technology person. So I did everything, at the first instance until the company grew and we had internal structures. So yeah.
Wow. So every single thing that actually housed the Conga website, you did everything from scratch. Yeah.
No, I didn't. So at the time, Conga had a consulting company working with them. So my first job was technology operations and support. There was a company based out of India called Vinsol that was building the website. But while, here in Nigeria, my job was to make sure that there was internet. Every single person that was hired, had a computer. The phone lines for customer service were up and running. There were printers, there were inks, all of those sorts of things. I just needed to make sure that the technology operations back home worked. Then afterward, the first major task was coordinating the product uploads in the Conga website. The website is just a website. So I did that, and it was an interesting experience for me. Because that was the first time I would say I had assumed a leadership role. Fresh 24-year-old first-time leader, made tons of mistakes, but
I think you did good. Honestly, because I was first of all like, this guy. Obviously, should I felt like a lot of people did not know what they were doing at first. Again, it's e-commerce is fresh off the bat in Africa. A lot of people were confused as, okay, so how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? And you being the leader, they were obviously always looking up to you for things like that. I was looking up to you for some things like that. Anything that had to do with IT, it was Celestine. Any single thing, even if it was not within your jurisdiction, it was Celeste. Find Celestine and fix it. Find Celestine and fix it. So you became literally. Then I think one David joined, and he fizzled out some of the software responsibilities. It was very interesting. It was very interesting, especially the product uploads, and it's something that I think that quite a number of e-commerce firms still find it difficult to do. I have people reach out to me like, can you find someone to do this and do this, and they didn't even have the job description literally for that role yet. They find it really confusing. So how did you do it? Because there are thousands of products on Conga at a point in time. So how did you do it?
Honestly speaking, lots of sleepless nights, plenty of Googling, asking questions. Thank God for the internet. So I pretty much spent the bulk of my time on the internet just being and asking questions and just reading about how other companies did it. And thank God for good support systems also. And we found partners that could also help us. So for instance, if pick up product to have the title, description, variants. Let's say it was a shirt that has multiple colors, for instance, or multiple sizes. Also, you had to sort of get good quality photographs. So we had the photo section in the company where Judy at the time had to come lead. So it was a lot of collaboration between Judy take the pictures, so that thing gets them, shares it amongst a bunch of people, and just manage the fact that we're going to upload it. Then also trying to make sure that the grammar, the tenses, every single thing in the product description was good enough. Then there was a lot of hard work, about plenty of Googling. And I think for me, that was one of the most transformational period of my life, career-wise, because it just sort of made me understand that, look, you never needed to be an expert on anything. If you apply yourself to anything and you are willing to sort of, go through the process and read and just be inquisitive, just ask questions and admit the things that you don't know and ask for help, then you always get help.
Yeah. Fantastic. Honestly, I learned so much from you. Really, I've not told you this in person, but I did learn a lot from you. In fact, honestly, Conga was so much of a defining point in a lot of people's careers, and that's because again, when you work with startups, and that's why I advise young people, they shy away, FMCG, multinationals. Those things are good, but then you're a dime a dozen there. You can you would not stand out because there's nothing they are doing that the next person cannot do. But with a startup, you literally will take on so much responsibility that except you're a lazy person, you would not evolve and grow within whatever it is that you decide to choose as your career path. So honestly, it was amazing, and you were exceptional. As one of the founding fathers, literally. So after Conga, you said you went to Paystack.
No, Andela. Andela before Paystack. I spent 2 years at Andela before I went to Paystack.
So what did you do at Andela, and how did that, will I say, did you start, were you thinking of alt labs while you were at Andela, meaning were you looking to start your own thing while you were at Andela?
So, interesting question. So what I did at Andela first and foremost, I was a consultant. So at the time, think about the equivalent of what a consultant at a McKinsey would do. That was what I was doing for Andela, but from a technology perspective. So Andela had a ton of clients around the world, and we would just get assigned to projects and also be matched with companies that we can work for. So I did that for 2 years. And also Andela also was a very pivotal, moment in my life, because for the first time, I learned to work remotely. So the fact that the world is working remotely today, it sounds nice and interesting, but Andela at 2016 or thereabout, I was working remotely at Andela, largely because the clients I was working with, they were based in the US, and my other colleagues were based in East Africa, and I was based in Lagos. So it's practically impossible to work physically. You had to do it remotely.
Right.
So you had to learn how to communicate effectively, via video. You had to learn how to write. When you're communicating by written text in a remote world, you'll rather become verbose and bring lots of context and are supposed to minimize information and allow people sort of fill in the gaps for you. And that brings a lot of confusion and tension. So I learned that a whole lot at Andela. So, which has also translated to Alta Labs because we're 100% remote. I tell you, if I never did do that at Andela, it would have been a struggle today. Because I know how to manage people remotely, work with people, coordinate, all these sorts of things. So Andela also did that. So I spent 2 years doing that at Andela with 2 different companies. One in the financial services company, and then the other one in the hospitality industry. So while at Andela also, I figured there were people that I will meet every now and then that will say, oh, by the way, I like what you guys are doing at Andela. But unfortunately, I don't have X amount of money and I can't afford you guys. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, sorry about that. So after sort of listening to people will walk into the Andela office and say, oh, I want to build X. And that will say, oh, we don't have to build X, but we can offer you people that build X for you, but at this fee. And people will say, oh, I can't afford that fee. I mean, it's business, it's not a charity, and if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So there was this day, a guy came into the office and he wanted to build X, and funny enough, we met him at the reception and we got talking. So I introduced him to the sales team. The sales team said they couldn't do it for him because he had a certain amount of money and net to hire people. So I watched him walk out of the building dejected, somehow. And I figured, look, listen, if I ever leave Andela and decide to go run a company of my own, then I think I would like to solve this problem. So that for me was one of the times when the idea for Alta Lab started brewing. So I would go home, jot things down, things I would like to do, services I would like to offer, how I would like to sort of relate to clients. And so yeah, it was from that process. I didn't start a company because I wanted to start a company because it's sexy. Honestly, this thing is hard work and it's stressful. I miss being paid. So for me, it was just a place of, look, there's a need here, and I think I can fulfill that. So yeah, that's why we're here.
It's fantastic. Okay. You made mention of something that Alt Labs is 100% remote work, meaning that you have no physical structure. You don't go to an office, no nothing like that, and obviously you service clients across the globe. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
Okay. So how do you build a remote company? How exactly? That's that question. In fact, so I posted something on my Instagram page sometime this week, and welcoming pretty much everybody back at the office because we have a physical structure now, and saying 14 months of working remotely and everything was fine. Trust me, of that 14 months, about 6 months or even 8 months was very rocky. So having to build a remote team, it's hard work. So how can people learn what you've done or what you're doing at Alt Labs in building a remote structure?
Honestly speaking, it's hard work. It's really hard work. one of the things that a remote company doesn't lend itself is that you miss the part where you can get cues from the way people are acting. If you're not in the same office and I see that you're having a bad day, I can easily tell, from your facial expression, body language. But you can't do that in a remote company. You can sort of guess. So which is why the very first thing I think you have to do is approach every single thing with a point of empathy. Never assume anything. You're err on the side of asking more questions and asking questions and just don't assume anything. That's one. Two, there's a ton of documentation that we do. Almost every single thing. So if we have to do one thing twice, then there has to be a documentation for it. So that whoever is coming in next, we can easily pass this documentation to you and say, hey, go look at this thing. This is how it's been done. So we do a ton of writing. And also plenty of FaceTime communication like this, video calls. So one day something happened between two colleagues at work, and I was just watching it. Somebody said something that he didn't quite mean in a particular way. The other person probably had a bad day and misinterpreted it. And in the space of 10 minutes, there was fire in our Slack channel. So I had to step in and say, look, gentlemen and lady, create a Zoom link and sit down and talk. And by the time they did that, they realized that, look, it was only a place of miscommunication. The way you write and the way I read and comprehend it is two different things.
Absolutely.
But when you begin to talk and you begin to put a facial expression to your words, it adds a lot of context. It makes the other person very, comfortable with themselves. So we try to do that. So whenever it looks like tension is building, please get on the call, and talk. And also, one of the things that we are beginning to institute, especially this year, was we want to start meeting almost on a half-year basis. So every single person in the company will go to a particular location, spend like 2-3 days in the hotel. We just talk and go on. And for us, it's like a time for sort of reflection, meeting, talking, because we realize that when that physical bond is being established between two persons, it's a lot more easier when they go back to work, because Kenny is not just a colleague, she's now a friend, so the way I treat her, the way I relate with her, it's very different from the way I'll be talking to the friend. So you begin to see people, the communication tone changes. It leaves people being very formal as opposed to sort of trying to not offend the other person, to become, like themselves. You can have innuendos, inside jokes, all of these sorts of things. So we encourage that. We do a lot of that. And we do plenty of check-ins. So for us as a company, we do check-ins twice every single week. So Mondays, we have this big all-hands where everybody comes, we talk. And it's not just about work. We start with a soft, landing for everybody. Let's talk about our highs and lows for the week. We've got to talk about the movies to see, who they went visiting, the games they played, all of it. For like maybe the first 30 minutes, chill, no work related. Just tell me about your day. It's a water cooler conversation. We just get to talk, be themselves. And then we do that again on a Thursday, And then also for last year, December, for instance, we had one particular Friday that was dedicated for nothing. So what we did was that we sent pizza. We sent pizza to every single person in the company. So during that time of the call, everybody was eating pizza, maybe you drank something. Then we played games together. There's this typing game that we found online that everybody can type. We learned with like the fastest typer.
Okay.
Yeah, then people sort of discuss like spoilers of shows that they've seen over the week. It was just an entire day of no work, just chill, talk, So yeah, all of those things try to sort of build and foster a relationship. But it's still a lot of work. And it's a lot more difficult for people who you're hiring and this is their first time at work. Because for most people, their first time at work, they still need a lot of coaching, mentoring, people looking over the shoulder once in a while. Not micromanaging in this part, but people trying to nudge and prop them. And so for us, whenever we have somebody who is young and new, we create this thing called a remote body. So we pair you up with some other person who's a lot more experienced and have been in the company. So that person becomes your walking, breathing, mobile encyclopedia. You can ask every single thing you want to ask. The person is not your manager, by the way. It's just a person that you can ask and bounce ideas off. You know. And no, we have titles at jobs, but it's a very fast structure. There's hierarchy. So first name basis for every single person. Just
like that.
Yeah, that's how we work.
That's fantastic. You've given me some great ideas, which I'm also going to use, in as much as we've transitioned from being remote to physical. But you've given me some great ideas because honestly, there's never too much learning, especially when it comes to being a leader and how to lead people, right? There's never too much they can actually learn. And okay, so you've built a wonderful remote company. How do you, in terms of getting clients on board, how do you source for your clients as a techpreneur? I know most of your clients, at least given my background and some of the friends I have, I know that most clients come from referrals. You know, people that have worked with you and so on and so forth. But for Alt Labs, how do you guys get your clients on board? And yeah.
Also, interestingly, that's a very good question. A good number of our clients, maybe I would argue like 60-70% are referral. You know, so we work on a project for one company and people see and say, hey, who did this? And we refer them back to us. That has been one of the most effective ways. We don't necessarily do traditional marketing of Google ads or those sorts of things. It doesn't work for us because consulting is a trust-based business, so your name, your image, your brand sort of speaks for you, and people just sort of. And most importantly, also I won't lie to you, my background from other companies sort of helps out. So people will say, "Oh, you're X this, you're X that, you're X that." So that means you have the experience. So and then one other thing that we saw was that every other day on LinkedIn, people are trying to hire. So I would say, look, I can come work for you, but then we run a consulting company. We can do this for you. Like, oh, well, that's good. Let's try it out. So that's how it's been working for us. And also, I spend an unholy amount of time on Twitter. I'm not proud of myself. So, and when I'm on Twitter, I tend to talk about work and just tweet about my work. And also, I write. I have a blog that I write about. I write about business strategy, and so you will hear people say, "Oh wow!" Like recently, somebody said I was looking for a marketplace for artisan, and I googled it, and your article came up, and a guy emailed me like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. Is it for us to work together?" So that for us became an unconscious content marketing way, which again that wasn't the intention, but it has somehow led to this funnel where we can begin to get leads for ourselves. So that's how it works. And like I said, we've never. We started, I think I would say every time I ever tweeted anything about like come work with us was recently because we built a particular product first time for ourselves that began to put out there. So other than that, it's been referral.
Okay, fantastic. I've taken some ideas from that as well. Personally, so one thing I've noticed is especially for CEOs, most CEOs leave the marketing of the business or even just talking about, what the business is about. They leave it to maybe the marketing unit or to chance, but the fact that you've pretty much used just your Twitter platform, just talking about business strategy, about, issues here and there, you've been able to create this perception in the minds of people that when it comes to anything that has to do with software engineering, they can literally come to you for that because you have the expertise and also obviously your track record of where the places you've worked at and the products you built. I think that's fantastic. I think that's really, really good. Okay, so are there any other things you would like to share before I go on with my questions?
No, nothing comes to mind at this point in time. But I think with regards to the CEO leaving the marketing team, well, I feel like at the very early stage of a company, all hands on deck, and at the very early stage of a company, for most part, the CEO becomes the company for people externally. So I don't necessarily think it's very wise for you to just sort of outsource that and say the marketing department or company do this for us. But of course, at a certain level, you can't actually get involved in something. But at the very early age, you roll up your sleeves and get into the trade because up to this moment, even though as we've grown, somehow we now have like channels for people to reach us. You know,
Okay.
we have like an entire inbound inquiry email, but people still decide to email there. And I can't just say, oh yeah, go and go back and email their address. I still have
Yeah.
that time to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, honestly, this has been a wonderful session and this has been very, very concise, meaning that you've not dragged the question for too long, short, concise answers. It's beautiful. So we're going to wrap up the session with a couple of questions. I'm going to ask you about your life, about, a bit about work, a bit about Nigeria, about the world, and so on and so forth. But my first question is for Kiaru Rapid Five question is,
Mhm.
as a stay-at-home dad, first of all, what came about that idea? How did I even come about? And how have you been able to do it, really? Because it's the most, honestly, Celestine is the most, anytime I see your post about Lee, I'm always very excited because I hardly see things like that from men in Nigeria. So how did you come about, working that way and ensuring that you can, as a husband, as a father, as well as an entrepreneur, how do you marry it? How do you do it really?
Um, Honestly, it's a lot of. I think it's just being intentional about it. I was really fortunate to have been raised by a father who was really hands-on. So my father was very involved in our lives, and so for me as a person also, I figured, look, this man has my father is one of the greatest influence that I have as a person today. So I figured, look, the least I can do for my own kids is just become um, a father and just be present with them. I think it's also then the fact that so we don't have a maid at home, so it's just myself and my wife.
Okay.
So
You do
um,
wait. You do not have a maid at home?
yeah,
Wow. Go on, Celestine. You're just
so
saying, like you and Ineka, you guys are just blowing my mind. Honestly, please go on.
I mean, it's just we just look. Listen, we have to find a way to make this work. So it helps that I work from home. So and it's easy for me to sort of keep an eye on my son and say, hey. So in the morning, I get him to school. I wake him up. Prepare his breakfast, snacks, or lunch, or whatever. Get him to school, and at close of school, I go back to school, pick him up, and we come back home together. My wife works as a radiographer, so she's most time in the hospital, one way or the other, doing stuff. So we come back at home together. And over time, we just started building that bond. Because it was just the two of us at home, I mean, we have to find a way to make it work. And I just decided to like, look, this guy. So we talk, so some of the things that I tweet and write about my kids, I have had somebody ask me, do you just make this thing up or did it really happen? It really happened. I mean, they really do happen. At every phase in their lives, from their first step to when they started blabbing the first word, just watching them grow and all of those sorts of things. So these are our daily experiences, our daily lives. In the evenings, every evening, or most evening at 5 p.m., I take him out to the compound. We go ride bicycle together. So for like 30 minutes, like 45 minutes, watch him ride bicycle. Come back home, come back upstairs, take his evening shower. By 6:30, he has to do his assignment. When he's done, he has a Kindle. Give me his Kindle for like an hour or two, and he has to go to bed by 9 p.m. Tops. All that thing. For most days, it's him coloring, so give him a book, give him his, crayons and pencil, watch him scribble, draw, color. Or most times, I just was sending him downstairs to go watch, send him to go watch cartoons. Same thing with his sister also. So yeah, it's been because there's no manual to this thing, honestly speaking. After being a parent, not after being a parent for relatively 6 years, there's no manual to this thing. You just have to like find a way to make it work every single day. Most days are very beautiful, most days are very frustrating, but hey, you have to do what you have to do for your kids. I think for me also, as a person, one of the things that sort of gives me concern is tomorrow I want to look at myself. I say that I can give the best for this children. That for me is one of the motivating factors. I don't want to leave anything to chance and say, could I have done something different? would I have done this? Would I have been around? Would I have been present a lot?
Right.
After all I've been said and done, 2 years ago I met, somebody I consider a role model, and he said, "Look, for the first 10 years of my life, I was chasing career and money, and I missed a lot of things in the lives of my kids growing up." So I started playing catch up at some point. I don't want to case when my kids become strangers. I'm just that man that provides, buy toys, send them to vacation, and that's about it. I want to build like a relationship with them. We could be friends, we could talk, when the moment my daughter gets to age, I really want to like drive her to a salon where she get her hair done, take my children to a playground. So that for me is my ultimate, because also that will go at some point. Where I will go, I don't know. But at least at some point I will leave out and step back. But I will never stop being a father. So that's it.
Celestine, you're so impressive. I don't know how else to say this, but you and Ineka, you guys are so impressive, because you've literally cracked. For me, I'm not a parent, I don't have kids, but I feel that, but I have people around me that are parents, and I feel like you guys have literally cracked the code of parenting. Honestly, in this generation, it's impressive. You think I'm not joking? And I feel that it's about time we get the children's book from you and Lee. It's about time. Let's compile those learnings. Let's put it in the children's book. Honestly, because it's. Don't worry, people that are watching this, they will comment. They will let you know, because it's really hard. It's really, really hard to combine both. Are you having to create this itinerary as you have? And I'm sure it's not easy. I'm very sure you're always tired, but it's the joy, it's the happiness. Even when you write, I'm always sensing like this guy is feeling like his son did something ridiculous, but he's happy about it. He's very, very happy about it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Well done. Well done. Okay. So my next question is, in terms of technology in Nigeria, this is a very safe zone. What do you think the future holds for Nigeria in terms of technology? Are we ever going to be like an India, or are we ever going to be like what else? Maybe Silicon Valley in the US? Where do you think technology is going to?
So yeah, in terms of an India, from a workforce perspective, I think given our young population, we would become the next center in the next 10, 15 years of technology workers coming out of Africa. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Young people are hungry and enthusiastic, are just pushing themselves forward. And this is one of those meritocratic industries that I have seen. Nothing for me, spells meritocracy in the workforce, that technology. It's either you can do it or you can't do it. Your father's name can't influence anything, unfortunately.
Right.
Your mother's name can't influence. There's no connection here, as it were. Right. Because companies today are actively looking for people to hire. So whether you are the son of a peasant to the son of a minister, I mean, in the world, in this industry, we're all the same. As long as your skill set sets you apart, as long as we're all here, we're all doing the same thing. Whether we'll become as a global power like the likes of America with Googles of this world, honestly speaking, to be very frank with you, for that to really happen, we have to have like a total overhaul of our educational system, especially for computer science education. For instance, so people have to start learning practical skills from school. And also, there has to be some sort of synergy between academic and the private sector, where from internship, think about it as a year 2 student, for instance, you have marketing skills. A company like Andela is coming to your school to recruit for internship. You finish there, you go, in your 3rd year, you go to a pay start. In your final year, you go to, let's say, Conga, for instance. By the time you're done with school, you probably have cumulatively 1 year of experience under your belt. That's invaluable. Right. Any person hiring you at that point in time is not really trying to pull your hands, through the ropes. You already have skills that you can bring to the table. So, and that's it. Also, the academia has to start. Government has to start prioritizing that, then fund research and development, groundbreaking technology as well as for the first time, and also the more high net worth individuals that we have here who are willing to sort of bring out their money from, safe zone, as it were, real estate, oil and gas, and invest in tech, it will be better. We could also what happened to Paystart, a 5-year-old company that sold for like $200 million company.
Yeah.
So imagine all of that return on investment was coming back to the local community and not, going abroad, because you can't blame them. Folks abroad funded the company. Think about the multiplier effect. If every single year we have just 2 acquisitions of a Paystart, for instance, for $100 million, and the money is coming back to the local community, what happens is that more people are now emboldened to invest. And the more investment happens, more opportunities will create. So as investment happens here, the pie becomes bigger and bigger for every single investment. So yeah, that's how this will go.
Wow, very interesting. Okay. All right. So as a business, we like call Alt Labs a business, a Nigerian business, or so how would you define Alt Labs? I'm confused actually.
So I think for us, for me at the time, I was looking for a name for this company, and somehow I'm not quite sure how I stumbled on the word altar, but I was looking for. So I did a Google search about for Latin words that sort of made a particular thing. So altar labs, or altar the word, is rooted in the Latin language. It means deep-rooted, highly novel, lofty, all of those sorts of things. So for me, it made sense. Like, oh wow. Then the last part is that we're like a studio, always experimenting, because we're building multiple stuff for different people. So the beautiful thing about consulting is that every single project we take on is a new learning experience for us. If we're building something in the health, space, we have to go read about everything about health. If we're building something for, retail or payments, you have to go together. So the last part comes from experimenting, learning, and continuous development. So yeah, that was how the name also Labs came about.
Fantastic. What you just made mention of in terms of you taking on projects within specific sectors, either formal or informal sectors, and you having to dive deep and read about it. It's very similar to what we do at Pandora, but from a marketing perspective, we have to see what has worked, to do competitors analysis, leveraging off of what has worked for the competitor, what has not worked from the competitor, and also coming up with new ideas and strategies. I had no idea that's what you did. Okay, so that's been clarified. So would you call your business a Nigerian business or a global business?
Well, as of today, we live in Nigeria, we work in Nigeria, every single thing we do in Nigeria, even though we are 100% based in Nigeria, but it's not actually a Nigerian business. We don't serve, there's no rule that says we should only serve Nigerian companies. We could serve companies anywhere in the world, but of course we live and work here in Nigeria. So maybe it's a Nigerian business.
Okay.
We're registered in Nigeria.
I didn't get that.
We're registered in Nigeria, so it's a Nigerian business.
Okay. So what was the last thing you learned, Celestine? What was the last thing you learned?
In what context? Just about anything?
About anything, really. Either from Lee or even from Ineka or from your work, from the client, from your staff, anything.
Last thing I learned, that's really, honestly, I didn't quite pay attention to it. But I think I would say the last thing I learned from work is just the fact that not every single potential client will work out at some point, no matter how painful. And we've had cases where we started talking to somebody, and 3 months down the line, we're still talking. Like, we've not even moved the needle. We started talking to another person, and like in 2 days, we've pretty much just gone fast. So I have come to that realization that sales in B2B is really expensive. It's really hard. It's really time consuming, but you have to see it through. And also maybe just having the ability to sort of, there's no science to this, understanding what project will work on to deliver it. So I think over time, maybe I have developed some sort of intuition to that. This wouldn't work out. So kill it very early on and just move on, or work out.
Okay. So what has been your contribution in making Nigeria a better country?
My contribution? Maybe my taxes?
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Honestly, so I think maybe just trying to live as a decent human myself, because I mean, that way I am one less nuisance that the society has to deal with. So that's like the easiest thing. And also maybe the fact where this thing that started by me and me, it's now into this thing where other people source of livelihood can depend on it. So for me, that's one of the proudest thing I think I have done in my entire adult life.
Is that Lee at the background?
Yes, my kids are somewhere outside. I'm in my study.
Okay. All right. For my final question, if you were to create one law that everyone must follow, what law would that be and why?
People should not be segregated based on religion, ethnicity, maybe sexual orientation. Everybody should be created equal and equal. If the opportunities there, they shouldn't necessarily be anybody that says, "Oh, because you are X, Y, Z, you're not supposed to sell access." For me, nothing is as frustrating as that. I'm a big believer in dealing with people based on their competencies as opposed to what they believe or they don't believe in. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And that brings us to the end of Carrie's sessions for this week. Celestine, I really, really appreciate your time, because I know you're a very busy man. So thank you so much. I've learned so much from you.
Thanks much from
you today. So I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Care Sessions. But before we go, I'd like to also make mention of the fact that this may be our last session for the next couple of weeks, possibly months. And that's because we're working on some things at the back end. And it's my hope that when we do get ready to unveil what we are working on, we'll share that with you, and you'd definitely want to be a part of it. And on that note, thank you for joining us once again. I hope you learned one or two things from my session with Celestine today on starting a business as a techpreneur. In Nigeria, Nigeria is not the easiest country to start a business in. And I was having a conversation with someone over the week, and we pretty much came to the conclusion that if you start a business in Nigeria, if you succeed in starting that business in Nigeria, you can pretty much run a business anywhere else in the world, and that's absolutely right. So on that note, I hope you learned a lot from this series of starting a business in an emerging market like Nigeria. Until next time, have a wonderful weekend.